Welcome, peace be upon you. Welcome to this happiness Q&A, where I'm really excited about any questions you have about life. That could be anything from personal issues to global issues, because everything to do with life affects your happiness. Uh, I also want to say that these ideas are not from me, because if they were just from me, they would be not much good. They are from Islam, and that means that it's, first of all, it's for everybody, because if it's from Islam, the idea is it's from God, and God knows how your brain works and what you really need. He's your designer. But I don't want you to just believe me. I'm going to set out the principles from Islam and then show you through psychological studies, logic, or you can just test them out or just see, does it make sense to you? That's what this show is about. I really hope it makes a difference. So let's get going. The first thing I'm going to do, I love doing, is starting with a happiness tip. And I'm kind of going to do a 2-in-1 in this particular case. I'm going to talk about not just a happiness tip, but how to learn happiness ideas, an important principle in how to learn happiness ideas. So every week, normally, what I do is I come up with a new saying from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, or maybe a verse from the Quran or something. In fact, what I'm going to do today, by purpose, to demonstrate this important reason, or this idea, is I'm going to repeat something I said last time, but hopefully you're going to learn something different. And the reason for that, in the Quran, it says repetition is beneficial. Okay, so, or maybe the word wasn't repetition, it was something like repeating an idea or telling an idea again and again is beneficial. What is that all about? Why would it be useful just to repeat an idea over and over again? So as I said, it's all about psychology, but not all about psychology. It's about fundamental principles taught by God and then psychology to back it up. So there's an interesting thing that you should know about your mind, if you don't know already, and that is you're constantly in the background figuring things out. So there was an interesting study done once using computer games, and some people were told, play this computer game and then forget about it. And then they slept and they were thinking about it. A lot of them were thinking about it in their dreams, and the next day they came back better at that game. So what I'm trying to say in short is that the benefit of repetition is not that you will hear the same thing again. What will happen is that there'll be a new version of you that you might have heard the thing the first time, but when you hear it again, because there's a new you, a more capable you, especially somebody who's thought a little bit about the idea you might have heard from me last week, you will become you'll be able to gain more stuff from relatively similar information. But again, I'm going to come to this happiness tip, which I haven't got to yet, from some slightly different angles. So here we go. Here's the happiness tip. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, concentrate duly, or give due attention on any one aspect of a project, and the other aspects will fall into place. Okay, so to be happy. So let me paraphrase that, because I think sometimes these things are a bit hard to understand. Okay, so it's saying, or Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that just concentrate. If you've got a big project to do, just concentrate on the first step. That's basically what it's saying, and the rest will fall into place. And you might go, how will the rest fall into place? Okay, so that might be a justified question. To be happy, you need to be happy doing important things, and important things are difficult. Just about anything meaningful or worthwhile that will eventually make you happy is going to be difficult, and it's going to have many steps in it. But what people do, And this could be, there was a great talk today, a TED talk. I'm a big fan of the TED talks. If you don't know what they are, basically psychological leaders or people who've done amazing things and they share what they've learned. Okay, so this particular person was a fitness instructor and teaching teaching people how to lose weight. Okay, so let's say that's your project. You want to lose weight. She said a lot of people like, go all out. They say we're going to achieve this big thing, and then they fail after a few weeks because they make it too difficult. So what you need to do is simply do the first step. So an example she gave was this person wanted to lose weight, a lot of weight, and all this person did as their first step was not to put sugar in their tea. Because I think sugar kind of, if you don't use the energy up, it turns into fat. As far, I'm not an expert in that. Okay, so the point is really small steps. I could tell you so many these top professionals, the most successful people in the world apply this principle. It's sometimes known as 1% better. Okay, so you focus on the smallest part of the project, and once you've done that, okay, then you go on to the next. Okay, in fact, one of the important things I wanted to say was how you even choose your project, because I don't want to just give vague ideas. I want to kind of do the A to Z of how to be happy and how to apply this principle. So the Islamic principle is that you should focus on doing good things. In fact, competing in good things, but I'm not going to get into that too much. Okay, if you want to be happy, there are two things I always say, and it's really important, and this is the thing about repeating. There are two things you need to do, which is have a connection with God and do good things, and then God says you'll have paradise. But those two things have probably, takes a lot of work, each of them, and the more you do it, the better you do it, the happier you'll be. Okay, and I talked about why you have to connect with God, and I will be talking about it in a very scientific way later on in this show. And by the way, I was going to say, by the way, ask questions, like I said in the beginning, and I've got Tariq Safir saying Salam Khalid, right? Salam means peace be upon you, the ancient way of connecting with people. Jesus did it. I think maybe Moses did it. It's a Judaic way. Old Christians would have done it. It means peace be upon you. I wish you the best. I wish you inner peace is another way of saying it. Okay, so wa alaikum assalam, and peace be upon you too. So you say peace be upon you too. I'm just realized I kind of sidetracked. I need to get better at this show. But anyway, you say peace be upon you too, because part of connecting is recognizing what the other person said. So you say peace be upon you too. Like I heard you say that. I appreciate that, and I'm going to give it back to you too, right? So anyway, let's get back on to, and Tariq, if you've got a question, please ask a question. Anyway, let's get back onto this thing. So I was saying, first, you have to realize, kind of backtracking, hopefully you realize what I was going to say. I was basically talking about you've got to pick something good, because if you want to be happy, you need to do the two things, and one of them is being good. Okay. Cool. I've got a question coming up. I'll get to your question. Oh, natural remedies. I've never had natural remedies talk to me. But awesome. So very quickly, let's round this one up. How do you even choose the project? First of all, it has to be in the realm of something good, because if you don't do something good, I'm going to repeat this over and over every show, okay, you will not feel motivated, truly motivated, okay, in a happy way, in a way that's sustainable in your life. You can find money as a motivation, but you'll get more and more miserable, and it's not really sustainable. You just you start taking drugs and stuff. That's what tends to happen, right? So choose something that's really good, and then within that, so you got a project that's somehow beneficial, okay, And then you look at that big project and you say, right, what is the smallest thing I can do? You think of something smaller, but then you can break that down even more and even more and even more. And it's to make it so small that you can't fail. Like it takes 5 minutes to do or something. Okay. Then what happens is you build up the resilience to do this project. Okay. You have to, and where am I getting this from? Why do it so small? Okay. There's a everything I've talked about, they kind of feed into each other. The more of them you know, the better for you. So I probably said before, because it's one of my favorites, I'm not sure what I've told you before, right? Okay, is that God likes, this is another saying, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, God likes people who are consistent, as even if it's a small thing. He prefers that to people doing one-off big things. Okay. By the way, if anybody wants references, it's really easy to Google it, and I'll show you how I even find stuff and how you can find stuff. I kind of did this in a bit of a rush. I'm going to adjust the camera. I had a lot of technical problems before the show started. Anyway, yeah. So I'm going to find out how to fix those technical problems before next week. But anyway, yeah. So it's really important to do really small things. Oh, so I mentioned this saying that you should do really small things and be consistent in them. That's how you, and why would God want you to do that? Why would God like that? Everything God asks you to do is because God knows how you function, and God really wants you to succeed, to be productive, to be a useful part of the world. Okay, and it could have been that God wanted you to, he could have made the success criteria to do things in short bursts. I mean, not short bursts, like just do lots of work in one go and that's enough. Okay, but God didn't make things like that, because a special quality of Islam is that it's about longitude, doing things for the long term. I could quote a few things, but they're quite complex. Like there's a verse of the Quran that says, by the fig and by the olive. Okay, and some verses are harder to understand than others, but the fig was supposed to represent Judaism, where you got some benefits, really short-term benefits, but they kind of failed in the long term. But the olive, the quality of an olive is that it's long-lasting, its fruits are long-lasting. So I'm going to get on to this next question by Natural Remedies. Sorry for making you wait so long. Okay, let's get on with this. So I'm clicking, is it on the screen? Show, there we go. Natural Remedies says, Salam alaikum, some Syria. Awesome. Okay. Question from Syria. Salam alaikum is another way of saying salam. Actually, the full saying is assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. That means peace be upon you and the blessings of God. It's really good to have you on the show, Natural Remedies, from Syria. I like the point that you have to start bit by bit. I appreciate it. Okay. Okay, Tariq Safir. It's slightly out of focus, but it's fine. Audio is clear. Awesome. Yeah, my mic, I was going to use a different mic, Tariq. And Tariq, I know Tariq, I'm not sure how much I'll tell you about Tariq. I'm not sure how embarrassed he'll be or not. Anyway, there's a missing piece. I just lost it. There's a screw that I was going to use for a good mic. But you think this mic is good? Cool. Yeah, and I might even work on I moved the camera. It's supposed to have autofocus, but yeah, always give me feedback. I'm changing things every week. But anyway, lighting and whatever. So let's get on to the next thing. So, oh, by the way, Natural Remedies or Tariq, please ask me questions if you want. Here we go. The next thing I was going to talk about, personal issues. So just so you got an idea, I'm not sure how much I said about this in the introduction. I want to talk about anything to do with life. So I have a whole thing about personal issues, and I go through loads of questions that I've collected from different friends. You can jump in, and then I talk about comparing ideas with other gurus on the internet, and I talk about big problems or comparing ideas from different religions, things like that. So just so you know what's going to happen, here comes the next question. Should the government be trusted with more power? Okay, so I encourage people to argue with me, basically. Sounds really weird, but I feel like people are so scared about expressing themselves, and then those thoughts are stuck in their heads, and then because they don't feel like they can, you know, communicate, they don't test those ideas out in the public. So it's good that I want to encourage people to kind of argue with me, but obviously a little bit politely. Anyway, so should the government be trusted with power? And this is all part of a conversation I had with my brother. I had so many technical problems just before I started that I haven't fully prepared. So I'm just getting a few things up. I'm not going to show you the WhatsApp group, WhatsApp messages, but here we go. Where is it? Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna read it out and answer bit by bit. Here we go. It's going to be interesting, I think. Okay. So I sent him a video about a doctor who is in the emergency department of a hospital, talking about the reality of COVID. Okay, and this person, I probably said who he was already, doesn't believe COVID is real. Okay, it's a conspiracy, and this is really important to talk about because it's, from what I can see, is one of the reasons why COVID still exists. So if we can get some understanding about this, then that could help the hugely terrible situation we're in many ways, okay, in terms of the economy and so many things. Okay, so he said, I watched up to 5 minutes 46 of this video, and so far he has been leading the conversation. Maybe I'll copy it. Let's copy this so you can understand what I'm talking about, because I might not be reading it so well. Maybe I'll put it in the banners. Where do I put it in the banners? I'm going to put it in the banners. No, I'll put it here because I'm seeing. No. Okay, I'll post it, but I'm not sure if it'll work. Okay. Oh yeah, it posted in two places, which is cool. Okay, so click on that. Okay, I watched to 546, and so far he has been leading the conversation to suit his narrative that the hospitals are overburdened, basically saying with COVID, but he didn't ask how many people are tested after the initial positive test for symptoms of health issues before labeling a death as purely COVID related. So if you're wondering kind of exactly what it's saying, there is a history, there's a very common argument, even people like Elon Musk have said this, right? That there's what we call, there's a lot of people being labeled with having died of COVID, but actually they had a pre-existing ailment of some sort of health issue. Okay, so what basically this person is saying, which is not me, I just posted it in my own comment, by the way, is saying that something to do with, you're basically suggesting that the doctors are unaware that they are labeling something as COVID-related death, and they're kind of unaware statistically that there are so many other health-related issues, and they're blind to that. Okay, what's happening in hospitals? And you can argue back if you want, if you don't like my answer, but what's happening in hospitals is that they're getting filled up very quickly. And doctors are saying over and over again, this is the worst thing they've ever seen. Even family members who are doctors, they're like, this is the worst thing we've seen in our lives. Like, this is how bad it is. Okay. So if COVID is exacerbating those existing health issues. The point is that without COVID, you wouldn't have this massive problem. Okay, and over, it's getting worse. There are more strains coming out that are more infectious, and we're not sure if they're more deadly. But just the fact that we don't know how to control it makes it even worse. But anyway, so all I want to say is that these doctors are not blind to it, and they're the ones who are saying they're the experts, right? And you could say that all these doctors and nurses around the country are conspirators, co-conspirators. They're like hiding the truth, maybe. But let's see what else you say. But they're the experts, and that's how they see it. They're not saying, oh, it's really because you're too fat, for example, because we know if you're too fat, that makes you more likely to get or have worse symptoms of COVID. But they're not saying that. I mean, even though it's true, they're saying COVID is a bad thing, right? It's really bad for you. Anyway, so that's my quick answer to that. Let's go to the next bit, which is here, paste. I'm pasting it so you can give me feedback if I'm doing it well or not, but just so you can read what's happening. So yeah, the death rate per day was 1,800 in the UK in 2018 from normal flu and illness. So in 2019 it was 1,300. Then after I took a snapshot of this and shared it on Google. Google changed the figures to include COVID deaths and made it 1,600. So what you're saying is that flu is more dangerous, maybe, than COVID. So definitely there is an issue with flu. Okay. And so what you're saying is this is more dangerous. But if it was more dangerous, then that kind of doesn't add up because the hospitals don't fill up like they are now. Yeah, so and like doctors won't say this is the worst thing we've ever seen, you know. And we know that, you know, COVID, I mean, the flu kills like just very, very much the elderly, doesn't kill younger people. And this is killing more and more, increasingly older people and having long-term effects. I think one of the problems, because I don't want to just answer the questions as if there's some sort of competition. I really want to make a difference in these shows. Okay. And one thing I can appreciate is that a lot of people don't really get bad symptoms. A lot of young people, like I got COVID, and I probably had it the worst in my kind of micro family, me, my wife, my kids, right? I think I had a fever at nighttime, kind of aching fever for like 1 or 2 days. And my daughter, who's 8, who I bet brought it in because she had COVID in her classroom and she was sent home early. She had like 0 symptoms. So what I'm trying to say is, I get that it can feel like it's a hoax, right? Because like if you get it and it doesn't have an effect on you, or it's not that bad, then you go, what's the big deal? I get that. And that's the problem with a lot of big issues. Say we care about democracy a lot, don't we? You go, some people might go, oh, what about, oh, who cares if I don't vote this week or this general election, which a lot of people did in the past. They did not vote. Okay. And then you get people you don't want. They're all subtle things in some ways, and you get bigger results when you combine things together. So things might not affect you directly, but let's say it's your dad. Okay, your dad's a bit older, right? Probably much older than you, and then he dies. And I'm trying to make this somehow relatable. Like, would you really want to risk that just for an idea that you have that you're not, how much evidence do we have? Like all the experts are saying that it definitely exists. It's really dangerous. It's got long-lasting effects that we're not even fully aware of. Yeah, because for example, it affects the brain, and people are saying more and more that it's affecting the brain. That's why we can't smell for a while, and even long term afterwards, depending on the symptoms. Uh, Imagine it's your dad. So I know somebody younger than me, and he almost died from it, and his kids are 10 years old. It's like, do you really want to be the cause? And it's not really a guilt thing. It's like really trying to empathize and the seriousness of this. Yeah. So you don't want to be in the wrong about this, is what I can say. I don't know. All right. Okay. I'm going to whiz through a bit more of this. I will get to the end quickly, but I'll say it quicker. All right. Okay. What's the next thing? Show, hide. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button. But if you add it up, I'm sure okay, I copy pasted the wrong thing. I'm just going to read a few things to speed through it. Okay, so no GP means deaths will go up. Okay, but if you add up how many deaths there were because they aren't seen by GP from normal illnesses, it makes sense that deaths are higher. Okay, so there's maybe a statistical issue here that if you add up the death, because people are not seeing GPs always because they might do a COVID test, the claim is, as I understand, that maybe it's kind of the same point again that uh, people might be dying of flu or some other illness, normal illnesses or something, and they're being labeled as COVID because they had COVID, which exacerbated the existing illness or something, and they was just labeled as COVID. But the point is, it exacerbates so many illnesses, and then you die. Anyway, internet services. Internet service clearly isn't enough to perform diagnosis. Okay, so we're talking about GPs. So even if you have seen a GP over an internet service, it's not good enough. It's not enough evidence that you've got COVID. Fine, okay, whatever. So when you say Google it, take it with a pinch of salt and read. I'm not sure what you mean by when you say Google it, take it with a pinch of salt and read the fine print, usually in brackets. I'm still not sure what you're talking about there. Are there, please jump in and tell me what you mean. Plus, they take too long on one person who we don't even know her role really. I don't know what that means. The hospital is full of people who think they have COVID. Great Britain is run by greater paranoia. Okay, so this is really important. So what you're saying is that people are just getting paranoid. They're hearing stuff on the news, and the news is getting people scared, and COVID is not real. It's all paranoia. Okay, so this relates to another very important teaching of Islam, which goes like this. It says, do not overindulge in suspicion, because suspicion can sometimes turn into falsehood. So there is a great danger of following suspicion, first of all, because if you're not sure and you're wrong, and lots of people die because of it, and this is what we're talking about here, and not just lots of people die, like whole economies just crashing. Okay, I'll just quickly make the very important point that loads of people have ended COVID in their countries, even in the Isle of Man, which is right next to us, because people just listened to it, and that was the end of it. COVID. They just finished COVID really quickly because everybody listened. They shut down, and now they're back to normal. Same with China, same with New Zealand, same with kind of Australia. I think so many people have shown that it's not exactly the hardest thing to do. Okay. But the key problem is in this country and many European countries like Holland, people are like, oh, it's a conspiracy, or we want our rights, we want our freedom. And then we just have a lockdown for a whole year. It's crazy. Okay, the virus dies in 2 weeks maximum, right? And if you keep it for a month, the lockdown for a month, you probably kill it for everybody, as long as you don't have lots of people just coming in the country. But that's another, bringing in COVID from another country. That's another issue. But anyway, yeah, the teaching of Islam is don't overindulge in suspicion. it's never wise to overindulge in suspicion. You might say, I'm not being suspicious, I know. Okay, but then what are your facts? Let's have that in the open and let's be really clear about it. Okay, another teaching in Islam, okay, which is a bit harder for some people to follow, okay, is that even if your leader is stupid, you should follow him, because Islam puts a huge amount of emphasis on unity and working as a community. Why? Why? If you don't understand how even food, I think a lot of people are going to learn how food gets to this country. It comes from a lot of different places because of Brexit and all the trade barriers. There's huge amounts of food getting wasted because it's not as smooth as possible, okay, as it used to, yeah, without all the new restrictions because of Brexit, right? Okay. When you don't have unity and when you don't have streamlined systems, and if you have the opposite, which is anarchy, you have so much suffering, and you might have to see that to really appreciate it. Maybe people just can't appreciate how bad anarchy is when you don't have people listening. I mean, we probably will in many ways, because this coronavirus is going to have such bad, probably is having so much, causing so much economic havoc already, because we're not being united and listening to the government and saying don't have birthday parties and whatever secretly, because guess what, COVID doesn't know his secret. COVID would be really happy and just jump in a party, spread the disease out, and then you spread it out to everybody, and then the coronavirus keeps spreading. Okay, so 2 principles. If I'm talking too much, let me summarize. Okay, don't overindulge in suspicious. Be clear about your facts. If they're facts, they're facts. Fine. If you know something, great. Okay, work on that. But suspicion can lead you to very dark places. The second thing is listen to the government. Unity is so important. Without unity, you have more and more anarchy. It's going to be really dangerous. Things break down. We are actually a very fragile society. The more high tech it gets, the more fragile it becomes, because we can't farm our food. We can't grow our own food. We're dependent on many, many systems, and those systems need a lot of organization. I'm going to have some of my blue tea. This is a very chilled out session, by the way. I do try to make it packed full of stuff, but I try to be chilled out as well. Yeah, blue tea. I'm not even sure if it's blue tea, but it's butterfly pea powder. My daughter has just ordered for some sort of healthy coloring or something. Apparently it's healthy for you and you can make it as tea. So sorry if you had to hear the slurping. I try to control that. There is a mute button. Maybe I should press that. Anyway, is there something there? Is there a question there? I see something. Oh, I will come back to the rest of this other chat about COVID, but let's mix it up a little bit. I seem to have a question. Can you briefly explain the physical, moral, and spiritual conditions of man as described in the Holy Quran? Fantastic question. It sounds really philosophical, but it's so fundamental to how you can develop and where you're going in your life. So maybe it's nice to use a few Arabic words. Some people like that, I think. I'm going to use a few Arabic words and explain them. Maybe also how to learn about them. Okay, more about them. So there are these 3 states. There's called the soul that incites to evil. So the Arabic is nafs amara. Okay, and that's kind of like your animal self. It's like you just do whatever comes to your mind. There's nothing that really distinguishes you from an animal, because animals go by instincts. And so you're not really particularly in the sight of God, you don't become of much worth, and you won't be happy. I want to keep linking it to happiness, right? Okay. Happiness is as you develop inside. When I say inside, you're not the same person when you're a baby. Your consciousness develops all the time. You've effectively got soul that's growing and growing and growing. And if you don't go and feed that soul as it grows, then you won't be happy. And there's so much evidence of that. Some brilliant stuff, some kind of psychological experiments and research to back that up. But I'm just going to give some idea of these 3 stages. So there's animal-like self, the self that incites to evil. You just follow your automatic inclinations of I want this and I want that, I'm gonna have that. And if you might be too scared to have everything you want because there's the law, okay, but that doesn't mean you didn't have the bad thoughts. Those are important in Islam. It's what's that saying? Your intention, your deeds are counted by your intentions in Islam. Okay, that's the saying of Prophet Muhammad. So that's kind of the animal self. But then in the Quran it says talks about the nafs al-lawama, but the way that God talks about nafs al-lawama, which is the 2nd stage, the self, the self is, it's a fancy. The English translation, because Arabic is so deep, there's a quite a fancy English translation, is the reproving self. Basically, it's when you get to the stage where you're trying to develop into a decent human being, and you keep telling yourself you keep trying and you keep failing, but you tell yourself off when you fail, like you're a weak child maybe, or like a baby who's trying to walk, but you keep failing and you go, oh, but you keep trying. Okay, that's the 2nd stage, and I'm going to tell you why all this is so important to your happiness in a second. Okay, it's really at the 3rd stage that you kind of appreciate the kind of where the trajectory, where you're trying to go. The 3rd stage is nafse mutma'inna. Sorry if I mispronounce it. I feel like I'm mispronouncing it. Mutma'inna. I think I might quickly show you how to find out about these things in a minute, okay? But I want to quickly talk about this. So the nafs just means like the soul, yourself, basically, okay? So the soul that I suddenly forgot. Basically, it means the soul that's free. Yeah. Okay. Free, and it's been described as if there was a barrier between you and God, and now you're free. You freed from that barrier, and then you're allowed to, like a flowing river. That's the rocks have been taken out of the way, and you can rush towards God, and you suddenly feel free. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to. Happiness is a kind of freedom, and that freedom is when you're not trapped by the stupidity of your ego. I sometimes think I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be. I'll show you even the shorter version. When you're free to be at one with God, that's the whole point. Islam means 2 things, and 2 really amazing things. I'll tell you why they're amazing, and I probably said this last time, so you might be getting bored, but maybe it's good. Like, repetition is useful. Islam means 2 things: to submit your will, and it means peace, as in inner peace and outer peace in the whole world as well. Okay, so you get peace, inner peace, when you let go of your ego, you submit your will, and you become one with God. What is God? God is ultimate beauty. It's like when you look at nature and you go, wow, it's so relaxing. What's so great about, like, when people love to, they pay loads of money just to be on the seafront. What do they see? They see water. You drink water all the time, but there's something, it's kind of uninhibited nature, and there's something so beautiful. That's just a reflection of God. Okay, so you want to be at one with God. Let's call it at one with nature if it's easier to understand. Okay, so that is the end stage. In the beginning is this sort of animal-like self, and you are not proud of it. But when you get to the middle stage, the way God describes it is like, it says, I call to witness. Like, it's God's way of saying, you have come to this stage where I feel like I can respect you now, because you're not just going by your whatever instincts you have like animals do. Okay, you got to this stage where actually you're trying to develop yourself, you're controlling yourself, yeah, you're choosing between right and wrong, and you're working on yourself. Now I have some respect for you. And it's not just God, it's yourself. So I'm going to talk about this. Wow, 40 minutes past. Okay, why do you sometimes feel unhappy? It's because you don't like yourself. It sounds really harsh. Okay, but let me explain this. I mean, there could be other. I don't really want to say there could be other things because I want to get to a point. Okay. One of the evidences of God, there are many evidences of God and different ways of finding it, is your consciousness. Sorry, not your consciousness. I'm saying everything wrong. Your conscience. What is this strange conscience? Okay. It's this thing that when you do something bad, it beats you up from inside. Okay. It's an internal compass that tells you if you're doing right and wrong. So you don't have to wait until the day of judgment to figure out if you're doing something right and wrong. So if God has created this system, he's telling you that, what God says, like by respecting you, you respect yourself as well. When you start making that effort, the more you make that effort, the more you respect yourself and less you'll suffer from things like depression. Now, you might be saying, where am I coming from? How do I know this? Well, maybe I'm just going to whiz down to some awesome research, and you'll see that so much, if you reflect on it, this research is telling you almost black and white, if you reflect a little bit, that if you yourself is not in line with God, or as Islam says, you have not submitted your will, or you're not submitting your will at all, then you will get miserable. Okay. I heard a sound, but maybe that was my WhatsApp. Nothing interesting there. Nope. Maybe a message. Nope, 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 no. Okay, fine. Okay, I'm going to close up WhatsApp. Okay, because I want that. You know what they say about you can feed a person fish and they'll live for a day, but if you teach them how to fish, they can kind of live for a lifetime or something like that. So I don't like just to tell people. I want to help people get the information for themselves. And so I'm just going to show you a book that for so many people has been totally life-changing. In fact, the book begins by saying, if you read this book from beginning to end, which I haven't, but my life has already changed without having to read the whole book, right? But if you read the book from beginning to end, this will change your life. It's like a challenge, and it's a short book, like 150 pages, I think, something like that. Anyway, let me see. What do I need to do? I need to share screen. So this time, normally I share screens all the time, but some people say like it's better if your face is bigger or something. So I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. Okay, so these are a few of my notes. And so to find out this book called The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam, go to bigquestionsanswered.com and then go to free books, all free to download. Why is it not? Oh, okay, it's being a bit slow. Oh, there we go. And then go to this book called The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam, which logically proves God exists, explains our purpose, and how to fulfill it. Okay, so you go to it, and what Tariq said there was the 3 states of development: the physical, moral, and spiritual conditions of man or human beings is the more modern way of saying it. So that is, let's do a little quick zoom in. The physical, there you go. Absolutely the first thing, check it out. Probably just read the whole book. It's an awesome idea. Anyway, so let's unshare that. What do? I just click on that. Okay, no more questions so far. Let's go on with everything else I was planning on saying. Okay, I'm gonna really get on to something I'm really excited about, and I've barely started talking about. Maybe I'll spend like 5 minutes on the COVID thing at the end, if anybody's got questions about it, but let's whiz on. Okay, do drugs help with depression? This is such an important question. People underestimate how many people are depressed. Okay, so apparently 1 in 10 are depressed, and that's a crazy amount in this country. 1 in 10 are depressed. Okay, but it's more than that, because I was talking to a psychologist, and I am of the opinion, because I talk to a lot of people, and I think I kind of spot the signs of depression a lot more. I would say a lot more people are depressed, and far more people are really, they're certainly not excited about life and quite miserable. Okay, so this is a really important thing, and people are like turning towards drugs because they don't understand themselves. Cool. I've got possibly a debate coming up in a second. Let me just quickly talk about depression, then I'll move on. Okay, so I just looked to the comment section, by the way, because I'm Reddit, but I can hopefully see what's coming up. We'll see. So what was I going to say? Yeah, let's just whiz on to it. This research on depression has told us that biological factors are very low on the importance of what makes you depressed. Let me just say the first 3 things on the list. Okay, disconnection from work, and I think a lot of people misunderstand when I'm talking, so I'm going to explain what does disconnection from work mean. Some people might think that not going to work means disconnection from work. No, disconnection from work that gives you meaning. So if your work does not have a meaning, like a higher cause, has some value or makes the world a better place, and you don't feel like it does that, then that is a key motivator of depression or cause of depression. Okay, weird. Let's just think about that for a minute. I'll come back to it in a second. Disconnection from people. So what does that mean? You could be in a huge football match, be chanting and whatever, ooh, 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 and my team's better and your team's rubbish. That is not really connection. Some people say it is, right? Because you feel euphoric, it's tapping into your tribal instincts, but not really, because what is considered a proper connection is deep connection, or something that says something really about yourself. You're not, when you go ooh, 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 here's my team and shouting whatever, you're not truly talking about something that's about you personally, and so nobody knows you. You're not Manchester United, for example. So if people know you as the Manchester United supporter, they don't really know you, and that's why people are getting more and more lonely, because they're kind of unaware of that difference. Okay, and disconnection from meaningful values. It just comes back to meaning and meaning and meaning. And what's the meaning of life? People would think this is a joke or something, or it's unimportant, or it's this really hard question. Okay, the meaning of life, in short, is to connect with God, to be at one with God. In Islam, because there are people with different levels of interest and willingness to kind of do any research and find out, Islam makes it really simple. Islam uses a fantastic word called ibadah. Okay, it just means to worship. So if you don't want to read or something, just start worshiping or knowing or remembering God. Okay, and you will very quickly kind of lose a lot of your depression. Okay, so yeah, focusing on materialism. I'm literally just reading the 9 there are nine things that by Johan Hari. Check it out. Very, very interesting. Maybe I'll go into it more later, right? Okay, 9 things that cause depression. Okay, and it seems to be all these soft and subtle things about meaning and connection, higher, things like that. And so I was just trying to summarize for people who just want to get to the point and benefit from this show, that the deeper connection you have, the higher the level of connection, the better. And the highest level of connection is to be at one with God, because that's the highest. What's higher than God, and what's a greater awareness than God? Anyway, 10 minutes left. I'm gonna whiz through a few things, but I really appreciate people joining in and asking questions. I'm gonna give that some priority. So here we go. Fresh Mark Sense. Cool YouTube name. Okay. I think it's possible to ascend from the I did not even expect him to say that. Sorry for judging you. I thought you were going to talk about something else. But anyway, I think it's possible to ascend from the physical to spiritual state of man using herbal medication. I like the question. Fantastic. So loads of people are experimenting with different ideas. In fact, this has been like since the 60s, when people are experimenting with different hallucinogenics, basically drugs. Okay. So that's a very interesting question. And then you have to ask yourself, let's look at some of these drugs. Okay. Let's just say marijuana, because it's a common thing, rather than ayahuasca and all this kind of stuff, which is maybe another discussion, right? Because ayahuasca, I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Okay, but anyway, is also kind of recommended by a lot of people to do this, kind of get into the spiritual state really quickly. So that's okay. So I'm gonna claim, with the evidence of this psychological findings on, let's say, depression, okay, that it takes effort, and meaningful effort, to get to higher levels of spirituality. Now, let me kind of re-explain from this, these physical, moral, and spiritual states, that happiness, true happiness, is basically ultimate freedom, where you're not dependent on material things. You're completely connected with the most beautiful thing in existence, which is God. You're at one. Okay, and you can very quickly feel that feeling by being generous, for example, because when you give stuff, you become more free, because you're less kind of scared of losing things. When you give stuff, you become outside yourself, as it were. Okay, so what I'm saying is that just these things that I've just told you about how to stay away from depression. Depression is like a kind of it's a kind of pain. It's kind of like physical pain. When you're bumping your knee and you bump it really hard and it starts bleeding, what you do is you think, okay, there's the cause. So there's the effect, which is bleeding. What was the cause, right? So, and the cause was bashing your knee on something unnecessarily. I'm going to stop doing that. I know there's a cause and effect. It's the same thing with depression. Depression is an effect, but what was the cause? Oh, let's think about these 9 things. And these 9 things are telling you, for your happiness, let's say, because depression is the opposite of happiness. Okay, don't do. You've got to you have to do proactive stuff, not just take drugs. I love the question. Maybe we'll come back to it in a bit, but I'm going to try to wind up with a few things. Okay. By the way, Yusuf, one of my amazing students from Jordan. I love Jordan, right? Today's topic is anything you want it to be, right, Yusuf, sorry, I'm saying Joseph. I'm translating from the Arabic to English. Yusuf, sorry, Yusuf. Yeah, you probably know that Joseph is the English version of Yusuf, right? You probably know that. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so what I was saying is, yes, it's anything you want, but we're talking about depression. Hopefully, that doesn't sound depressing. I found depression really exciting. Is when people have these kind of really low points. It's when they turn their lives around and do amazing things. Like Elon Musk said, I say Elon Musk too much. Maybe you'll be laughing at me, but he had terrible times, and it's those things that make him made him turn his life around. But anyway, so yeah. So there is, I'm kind of winding this question up from this brilliant question from Freshmark Sense. Okay, um, there is a lot of this idea that you take stuff, you consume stuff like in materialism, and then your problems go away. Be careful of having that bad habit in this materialistic society which keeps telling you, if you have this, if you have this amazing cake, you'll be happier, because that's what it does temporarily, right? These things, and I don't doubt that they have some benefit, by the way. Okay, let me give it that more rounded answer. But everything is done in the right place. Like, you don't take aspirin all the time. That's really bad for you, to or whatever drug, paracetamol. Okay, you take it at the right time in a specific condition and all this kind of stuff. Okay, and we know that there are so many bad effects of it as well. So let's not just say you take the drugs and you'll be happier. We know there are so many bad effects of, let's say, marijuana, that makes you you know, what's the word, suspicious of people. I forgot that word, paranoid and stuff like that, and does all sorts of it mushes up your brain and stuff like that. And we know that. It's not like I'm making this up. Anyway, so let me see if there's a question that's there at the end from Yusuf. Cool, please. Awesome. Let's get this. Yeah. Okay. I have a question regarding pornography. Awesome, because that was one of the topics, and I think I put it on the title. So let me quickly answer the question, because I didn't get around to it. I was meant to. So I have a question regarding pornography. For some research that I did, polls I've seen, percent of people watch porn due is boredness, like there's nothing. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Okay, and I'm going to tell you a very important Islamic principle. Okay, that will guide you away from pornography, because I'm not the kind of person who says don't do this thing. It's like what Islam teaches instead is, here's something much better to do with your time. Like, you'll be so much happier if you do this, and this thing will make you miserable. This thing, pornography, right? And it does, by the way. So what is this other stuff? Okay, what is pornography? In short, in 1 minute, you're basically saying you're having a fake relationship with a non-existing being. Like, even the person on the video is there, but somebody who's, like, I was talking to, who actually wanted me to talk about this, he said that there was supposedly this amazing sex scene or something, some pornographic scene, right? When I say amazing, it was like rated highly or something. But the people who were recording it were feeling sick because it was stunk so badly. But you can't see that because it's all edited and they're all acting. You must know that it's all acting, okay? And they hate themselves as well, the people who do it. Like, they have like psychological problems. I'm not insulting them, I'm feeling sorry for them. But if you research these porn stars, as they're called, there are serious problems with it. But anyway, well, what's the alternative? Maybe I should have started with the alternative. Is true family connection with people, high level connections, doing beautiful things with your time. Okay, having great food, for example, eating together, just eating together. The problem with a lot of people's understanding of happiness is that they don't understand it's all the subtle stuff. Because the subtle stuff sounds boring in the modern day materialism, right? You always want big and exciting stuff that you can Instagram on and show off to people, because otherwise you can't allow yourself to be happy unless you've got a really good picture of it. But actually, those people are really miserable. So it's the small stuff, The small stuff is not rubbish. It's the small stuff that builds up, makes you happier and happier and happier. Try to appreciate those small things. Feel lucky that you're alive today. It's a great, I'm out of time, but there's a great teaching of Islam I probably mentioned last time. Like, live life. If you wake up in the morning, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if you wake up in the morning, don't expect to live until the evening. If you go to sleep at night, don't expect to wake up in the morning. Maybe that sounds miserable, but it's exactly the opposite, because it's one of the reasons why we get depressed is because we think tomorrow is just another day. But if you think today is the last day of your life, then you appreciate it. And some said depression. Yeah. So Yusuf added in his second part, and some said depression. Yeah. People are bored, and I want to give them alternatives to do, things to do, to be excited about. There is so much to do. I'm like non-stop busy, doing so many cool things, partly to do with 1 minute over, but anyway, partly to do with like fun projects I'm doing. I'm making an artificial intelligence, what's it called, teacher. But also, I'm constantly getting messages. I'm part of an international Muslim community, but communities themselves are so cool. When you have those things, they completely change your life. I watch tour, videos where travel videos, and that's the number one thing people travel for. Just smiling people, community. It's up there with the biggest drugs there are. Okay, that's how I'm going to round it off. Thank you, Sir Jummah Mubarak. Jummah Mubarak means happy Friday. That is another massive happiness tip. Celebrate every week. That's what Muslims do. They consider every Friday a party day. You're supposed to have a fantastic time because human beings need it. Okay, what is the last thing? And sir, is it okay if I got your business email? Okay, if you want my email, I've just got one email. Maybe I'll have a business email because I'm trying to start up a company, but that'll be later on. Just go to bigquestionsanswered.com. Maybe I'll just post it. Oh, I'll post the link where you can get my email. It's on the contact page. I don't know why I don't just send you the whatever. I'll send it to you here. I don't know. Go here. There you go. Okay, then my email's on that page. So awesome. I'm interested in seeing what you got to say to me, Yusuf. But yeah, peace be upon you. Have a great week. Hope you benefited. I'm getting out of here.